Every year, high school students apply for college hoping to get into their top choices. An interview is often a part of the process. These two students did not have the interview they were expecting from the place they might call home for the next 4 years.
I've submitted my application to Harvard University, Georgetown University, University of Florida, Florida State, and UCF. And I'm still working on my application for Boston University and George Washington University.
So far, I've applied to Georgia Tech, Northeastern University, and Brown University. I also plan on applying to Harvard, Princeton, Middlebury, and Stanford.
Okay, so my Georgetown interview was very stereotypical of what I thought a college interview would be like. So when I met him, he was very formal, very professional. He asked me a lot of typical questions like, what are you looking for in the school? What do you want to major in? Tell me about your community service, extracurriculars. So it was very clear cut, but I also learned a lot from the interview. There were some questions I wasn't really prepared to answer. Like he asked me what was the most recent intellectual book I read and what I thought about it. So I wasn't prepared for that at all. So I made sure to go home and think of an answer to that if I got asked again.
Well, she actually didn't really ask me any questions. It was more of just a conversation, I guess. And she talked a lot about herself, and we talked a lot about the school, but she didn't really ask me any typical interview type questions.
So after going home and kind of preparing for my Harvard interview, after the Georgetown interview, all the stuff that I prepared was a total waste because this guy was completely different than my Georgetown interview. He was very chill, he was very unprofessional, and he was very honest and almost too brutally honest. So when I first met him, he just started asking me about stereotypical questions, what I do outside of school, what I do in school, my grades, and he kind of looked over my application because he wanted me to give him a printout. After looking over my application, my Harvard interviewer said, all of your stats, all of your numbers, all your scores, they fit our school perfectly, but because of this, and he pointed to my race, I'm white, so he said, this is going to prevent you from getting in. You're not diverse enough geographically and based on your demographics. So basically, I don't think you're going to get in. You're a great candidate, but I don't think you're going to get in. I just want to let you know that right now.
So there was a point in the interview where she talked a lot about herself, and she mentioned that she was going through a divorce recently, and she was talking about how she kind of lived on her own in her own little apartment, and she just kind of seemed sad. So I offered for her to meet my family and come to dinner with my family, meet my parents, and I was kind of just trying to be nice, and so she took that really well, I guess. So she started crying actually during the interview, and at first she started tearing up, and then I was just kind of caught off guard, and then she started really crying. So it lasted 10 minutes, and it was a little bit awkward, and everyone in the Starbucks was kind of staring at us.
My Harvard interview really objectified women throughout the entire thing. So multiple times throughout my interview. So he asked what I'd like to do after college, and I explained that I really want to go into journalism, so living in DC would be awesome. And he followed that up by saying, well, what are you going to do when a blonde girl with big boobs comes in and sleeps with the CEO of a company and takes your job? So I definitely was not ready for that question at all. I didn't really know how to answer. I kind of sat there in shock, thinking, how would you have the nerve to even ask me that? And also being a woman, that just really caught me off guard. And he also said that at Harvard, it's very typical. You can kind of sleep your way to the top and all of this stuff that it was really unbelievable to me. Also because it was such a well-known school, and you wouldn't think that. And I don't even know if it was true, honestly, because I feel like the college interview should encourage you to go to the school, but based on my Harvard interview, everything he said was very critical of the school. So every time I complimented the school, he would proceed by saying something negative about it.
So I was expecting her to kind of just be normal interview questions and kind of why do you want to go to the school and what makes you a good fit for the school. But I don't know, it just really wasn't like that.
My friend, he's a boy, and he actually had the same interviewer. And I talked to him about his interview with him as well. He had it just last week. And he said that he talked about how being a male, he could sleep with the assistants of the classes and work his way up kind of in the school that way. So I don't think it was just because of my gender. I think that he would say it regardless of gender to anyone who he was interviewing. And he's probably done it to every applicant, I'm assuming, if he's done it to me and my friend as well.
But it was definitely very interesting, and I guess a reflection of the school if they would send an interviewer that is kind of emotionally unstable.
I was saying how I assumed because it's such a well-known school that they have great professors, you know, they're really into what they teach and they're really passionate about their students. But he said that in reality, the professors just worked hard at their career and they weren't the most qualified, and that they actually don't care about the students, they just want to go home to their families, and they actually don't like the students that are really engaged with the school, which kind of turned me off and I was a little confused by that. So he definitely made me kind of second guess the school, but then I kind of just disregarded it because all of his points that he was making seemed really invalid to me anyway.
I would say that the interviews are way more casual than you probably expect, and the interviewers don't really have a large sway with the admissions people because they're just like a random alumni that graduated in whatever year. So the interview in the end isn't really a huge part of your application.
I think it's almost important because I know especially with like Ivy League schools, people can lie about a lot of things on their application, so they can say that they're involved with this organization or say that they got this award, but if they never have anyone to talk to about it, then it's kind of hard to verify if it's true, because it's a little bit easier to see if people are fabricating their application when you actually ask them about it. But I also think they need to monitor their interviewers a little bit more, because this man that interviewed me from Harvard said that he's been an interviewer for 20 years, and I just find it surprising that no one has reported him or done anything. So I'm kind of thinking about maybe after I get my acceptance letter or my rejection letter, I might like report him to the alumni interviewer like council for Harvard, because that definitely shouldn't be allowed in the interview process.